I've bought well over 200 model airplanes over the years, and I can confidently say that not every purchase was a good one. Some of these models have terrible molds, some have some serious quality issues, some have been replaced by better versions, and then there are the ones where I look at them today and think, why the hell did I buy this? So today we're counting down the 9 model airplanes I regret buying the most. And this list might surprise you because not all of these are bad models. Some are actually really good, they just don't belong in my collection. I'll also explain exactly why I bought each one, what went wrong, and whether I think I made a mistake. And while you're here, there's actually a giveaway running on the channel right now. I'm giving away an NG Models Lufthansa A380, and I'll show you exactly how you can enter at the end of this video. But now it's time to look at the 9 models I regret buying the most. Starting off at number 9 is probably the most unusual model on this entire list. This is the EasyJet Airbus A350-900 by NG Models, and before I explain why I regret buying it, I want to make one thing clear. This is actually a really good model. In fact, this is still one of the best A350 molds you can get in 400 scale. So why is it on the list of models I regret buying? Well, this was actually NG Models' very first A350 released back in 2020. And let's be honest, EasyJet was a pretty strange choice for their first one. I bought this model because I wanted to check out NG Models' brand new A350 mold and make a video about it. And that's exactly where the problem starts. I'm generally not a big fan of fantasy models, so it doesn't really fit my collection criteria. And if NG released it today, this probably wouldn't make it into my collection. But there's one reason I'm actually glad I kept it. This is NG Models' first ever A350, and because these models have been pretty rare nowadays, it has turned into a rather interesting piece of NG Models' history. So while I definitely don't need this model, I can't say that I'm completely unhappy that I have it. And that's exactly why it only comes in at number 9. And let's be real, this is a pretty funny model to have in your collection. At number 8 we have another Airbus A350. This time a China Southern by Panda Models. And honestly, the model itself is actually really good. The mold is excellent, the printing is nice, and the only real issue is that the nose is slightly too round. So why do I regret buying it? Because I simply didn't need it. I originally bought this model in order to do a A350 comparison video that I still haven't gotten around to making. The thing is, I don't collect China Southern models and I have no personal connection to this model whatsoever. So this is basically a case of buying a good model for the wrong reason. It's definitely not a bad model, I just don't think I would buy it again. The number 7 spot goes to my Gemini Jets Antonov An-124. Now I actually love this aircraft. It's such a unique freighter and it fits in perfectly alongside the An-225s in my collection. The problem is the model itself. The mold is very outdated, with the one-piece wing creating a huge seam across the top of the fuselage, and the printing is only average. But the biggest issue is what I paid for it. I bought this at a local aviation fair for around $90, and honestly, I think this model is worth $50 at most. So I'm actually glad I own an An-124, I just wish I hadn't paid so much for this particular one. Hopefully we'll eventually get a new An-124 mold, ideally an interactive version with an opening nose cargo door, just like we got with the recently released Gemini Jets An-225. That's another model that is terribly overpriced though. At number 6 is the Airbus A330-200 in the classic Airbus house colors by Phoenix Models. This one is especially frustrating because it actually fits my collection perfectly. I collect these old Airbus rainbow house colors models and Phoenix usually makes pretty good A330s. Unfortunately, this particular model has a pretty strange problem. The wings are mounted at way too steep an angle, which makes the whole aircraft look a bit weird. And to make things worse, one of the winglets arrived with a small chip, so the model was slightly damaged right out of the box. It's not a terrible model and I still like having it in my collection. But considering how much I wanted it, the weird wing angle and the damage make this a pretty disappointing purchase. Luckily, Aviation 400 just announced this exact same model a few weeks ago, so I'll probably end up replacing this Phoenix version. Before we move on to the next model, please consider dropping a like on this video. It helps out the channel massively and I really appreciate it. Now on to number 5. This spot goes to my Southwest Boeing 737 MAX 7 by NG Models. I collect Southwest models mainly because I like the livery, so I really wanted this model. The mold itself is also excellent, probably the best 737 MAX 7 in 1 to 400 scale. So what's the problem? The blue is way too dark. And because I have other Southwest models from both NG Models and Gemini Jets, the difference is really noticeable when they're displayed together. It's a shame because the actual mold is fantastic and this could have been one of my favorite Southwest models. Instead, the color mismatch makes it look completely out of place with the rest of my fleet. So I don't really regret getting this model itself, I regret that NG Models got the most important part of a Southwest model, the color, so wrong. At least I got it through the NG Models exchange program, so I only had to pay the import fee, making it a bit less painful. At number 4 is the Emirates 777-9 by Gemini Jets. And this is a model I really wish I just waited on. I bought this one all the way back in 2020 when the 777-9 was still a long way from entering commercial service. So essentially I bought a fantasy model of an aircraft that doesn't even fly commercially yet. The mold itself is okay, but things have moved on quite a bit since then. Aviation 400 is now working on a 777-9 with foldable wingtips, which is already a major improvement. And on top of that, this Gemini Jets model still has the old Emirates livery, making it look even more dated. So looking back, I really should have just waited. There's nothing particularly terrible about the model, I simply bought it way too early. The number 3 spot goes to my Gemini Jets United Express Embraer E175. This is one of those models where once you notice the problems, you just can't unsee them. The nose shape is off and the engines sit way too low. They're not massive issues because it's such a small model, but once you see them, they really stand out. The printing is actually pretty good, apart from the Gemini Jets logo on the belly, which I really don't like. But the biggest problem is that I now have a much better alternative. A couple of weeks ago, Legacy Jets sent me their United E175 for a video I made about the company, and when I put the two models next to each other, the difference is pretty obvious. The Legacy Jets model has a much more accurate nose and overall mold, making the Gemini Jets version look pretty outdated. The Gemini Jets does have a couple of advantages, like the smaller front landing gear and the smoother United tail color fade, but overall the Legacy Jets version is the one I'd choose every time. So now that I already have the better version in my collection, there's really not much reason for me to keep the Gemini Jets one. At number 2 is the United 777-300ER by Gemini Jets. And honestly, this is one of the models in my collection that I really want to replace. When I bought it, this was actually the only 777-300ER available in the United Airlines livery, so I got it simply because I wanted to complete my United fleet. But even back then, the mold wasn't very good. The landing gear is around 50% too tall, the wings are made as one single piece, creating a huge seam around the wing root and underneath the fuselage, and even the APU exhaust is simply printed on instead of being molded. The printing itself is also pretty mediocre. Thankfully, newer Gemini Jets 777s use the much better JC Wings mold, but I still haven't replaced this one yet. And that's really the problem. I'm basically just waiting for a better United 777-300ER to come along. Hopefully NG Models will eventually make one, as they probably have the best 777 mold right now. Until then, this outdated Gemini Jets version is staying in my collection. And finally, taking the number 1 spot is the American Airlines A320 by Gemini Jets. And this is probably the model in my collection that I regret buying the most. The mold is simply not very good. The nose shape is off, the antennas are way too large, and overall it's one of the weaker A320 molds in 400 scale. But the biggest problem is the livery. The American Airlines Grey is way too shiny and it has this strange blue-green shimmer that just doesn't look right. And what's even more annoying is that it doesn't match my other American airline models, not even other Gemini Jets releases. And then there's the price. I paid around $60 for this model. Considering Gemini Jets is one of the more expensive brands, I expect a lot more for that kind of money. So you've got a mediocre mold, an inaccurate livery, inconsistent colors, and a $60 price tag. Looking back, this is definitely one of those purchases where I think I really should have invested my money otherwise. And that's why the Gemini Jets American Airlines A320 takes the dishonorable number 1 spot on today's list. So those are the 9 model airplanes I regret buying the most. And looking back at all 9, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that a good model doesn't always mean it's a good purchase. Sometimes it's the mold, sometimes it's the quality, and sometimes you simply realize that the model doesn't belong in your collection in the first place. I've definitely become a lot more sensitive with my purchases over the years, and hopefully that means there'll be a lot fewer regrets in the future. But now I want to hear from you. What's the model airplane you regret buying the most? Let me know down in the comments. As mentioned in the beginning, I'm giving away this beautiful NG Models A380 to one of my subscribers. To enter, all you have to do is to subscribe to Swiss400 on YouTube, follow Swiss400 on Instagram, and tag 3 people in the comments of the giveaway post. The giveaway will end after we hit 4,000 subscribers. So enter the giveaway now, and with a bit of luck, this Lufthansa A380 will join your collection soon. Don't forget to subscribe to Swiss400 for more interesting model airplane content, and in case you want to keep watching, here are some suggestions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, aviators!